This is KSGVradio.com, the voice of the valley.
We're going to start off with the guns, and the one gun I want to show you, the gun we're going to end with is the gun that assassinated our president. But the gun we're going to start off with is, and we're very proud of this weapon here. This is one of the weapons we've collected. This is actually a 1858 Remington 44 caliber black powder pistol. And it is actually an 1858 pistol. It's not, this is the reproduction model right here of the same gun. But this is actually the real gun actually used during the Civil War. And to fire these weapons, these are single action. So, well, let's go backwards. I'll show you real quick how you do it. Powder. You had to put powder inside these guns. You didn't have bullets. At this time, you had a round ball. You put the powder in. I'm going to open this up here. It's all stapled. Is that okay? See, this is live radio, and we give you the. It doesn't get more live than this. This is a 44 caliber ball. They would put the powder in. They would put the ball in. Then they'd have to squish it in, squish, inside each cylinder. Then on right here, you'd have to put the cap, which is basically a little explosive spark that once hit when you pulled back the hammer and fired pulled the trigger, and the hammer would go forward, hit the little explosive cap that's put on there, ignite the powder, and the ball would go flying out. So it wasn't just like dropping in 6 bullets and going to town and going bam, bam, bam. It was a real chore to kill each other. You had to really want to kill somebody. And that's not joking. I'm being serious. It was a lot of work to load these suckers up. But it gave you 6 shots. And it was 44 caliber, so it could do a world of hurt to you. So every time you fired, you got to pull it back and then fire. Pull it back and fire. As opposed to the modern weapons, as you've seen by the movies, pop, 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 pop. It ain't like that at all.
A little bit faster. But compared to what they had used before in the wars, this was the ultimate weapon.
No kidding.
So it's just relevant to what came before it.
I'm going to show you here what my brother alluded to earlier. Here's the little ball that they would fire, and here's the Minet round. It's actually shaped like the bullets we know today, but if you were real lucky, you actually had these little things you put together with the Minet ball, your powder charge in paper, and it was all together. You just rip it open, drop in the powder, push in the ball, go to town. What an advancement.
Oh, it made it so much faster.
The Minet ball is hollow on the end. It has little ribs on it. But those ribs have a name or anything, Otto?
I can't think of it right now.
Yeah, but so basically you had this coming out of a gun that had rifling. So imagine getting a football and going like this. That was the old way. Imagine getting a football and going whoop, and it spins the perfect spiral down the field. That's what this was compared to the ball. And this was a killing machine. But here's one of the neatest things in the world. I'm going to get this up here and hold it for you. This is the Cavalry Saber. Look at this sucker. Isn't that just absolutely beautiful? I mean, this is the distinction that made you a cavalry soldier.
How long is that thing? About 3 feet?
About 3 feet.
Yeah, it was made, to be riding a horse and bringing it down on poor infantrymen.
I mean, that is so absolutely beautiful. So that is the Cavalry Saber that they used in the Civil War. That is really neat. This wasn't used as much, but it's just such an impressive gun. It was actually used prior to the Civil War and into the Civil War. But this is the gigantic. I mean, The actual name of this gun is what, Addy?
Cole Walker.
That's it. Colonel Colt made the Walker repeating pistol. And look at this thing. This was actually meant to be used as a rifle. And it's actually heavy for me to hold. But same routine. You dropped in your cylinders. You pushed the plunger down each cylinder. You cocked it back. And you fired it. They're all single action army, SA. And that's what you knew was, I mean...
What is that caliber?
It's 44.
Oh, 44.
44 caliber, a huge weapon. If you look at, they look about the same size, but if you look at the weight of this thing, the Walker, as opposed to the 1858 Remington, which is also a 44 caliber, but this one here you can just load up with. What is the powder charge of the Walker? The average powder charge about 90 grains or something like that. And then they made them kick it back a little bit.
The powder was different though.
Yeah,
that was real black powder.
That's real black powder. That's right. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Okay. And this is a 36 caliber Navy. So the distinction was when it was Navy, and they actually had a beautiful little battle scene on it with ships fighting, and it was scrolled on the cylinder. And if a gun was called Navy, it was a 36 caliber. If a gun was called Army, it was a 44 caliber. Am I correct in that?
Okay, that's how I understand it.
So this one here is an especially nice version of the 1851 Colt. It actually has a nickel backstrap on the grips there, which makes it very, very pretty. And so these are the things that officers would carry. Your average infantryman, just like today, where they carry an M16, back then they would carry the Springfield rifle. And the officers were the ones who usually carried the revolvers as they carry the pistols today. So it basically breaks down the same. We're continuing with the weapons of the Civil War, and one thing that Addie and my brother have in common, his uncle, is they love artillery. This is my brother's forte, so I'm going to shut up and let him talk a little bit about his favorite artillery pieces. And while you're doing that, could you please hold up your artillery sword? And the artillery sword, if you're a weapons aficionado like we are, or just a lover of history, the Civil War artillery sword is based on the Roman gladius. And that's what makes it doubly cool for me, because I love Rome and everything Roman, and my brother loves the Civil War, so you get the two like Reese's peanut butter cups.
Well, anyway, this was the sword that was given to the artillery teams, and basically it's a short sword that's patterned after the Roman gladius. And the point of the sword, I heard, was so that if you had a team of horses pulling your cannon or pulling your limber, and the horses were killed in battle, then you could use the sword to cut them out of the harnesses, so that you could take the dead horse out, and the other horses could pull the cannon. Or I guess if all the horses were killed, you would cut the horses out of the harnesses, and the men could push the cannon out of the way.
We're coming to the end of the show, and we're going to talk about, of course, why we actually got the idea to do the show in the first place, President Lincoln's birthday. And, of course, the darkest part of the war and the last soldier killed?
The last shot fired.
The last casualty of the Civil War, the commander-in-chief. President Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth. Here it is, everybody. That's it looks like a toy, but it is a lethal weapon. As Artie said earlier in the show, we think of these things as being these archaic weapons that you had to put gunpowder down the barrel and push in your ball and all this stuff. They are, believe me, we've taken them to the range, we fired them. They are deadly weapons. And this, of course, was the most deadly weapon and one of the most devastating weapons of the war. When you think about it, it killed the president that literally held the Union together. Ladies and gentlemen, I am the Heretic. This is the Heretic Show. My big brother Art was here tonight, Art Alva, telling us about the Civil War. We love all the fun stuff of the war. We just pray to God it never happens again, and you should be praying too. So for everybody from the Heretic Show, remember, if nobody else loves you out there, the Heretic loves you. And from everybody in this room, we love you, Mom. Good night, everybody.